If a sole element is likely to not result in significant travel behavior change, what combination of elements might work? This section of the presentation addresses possible hybrid strategies. We would like your feedback on which strategy resonates with you the most, and if you think the strategy could be adjusted to better meet the vision for future travel. Given the elements of strategies that we have already presented, there could be 450 combinations to make strategies. We would now like to shift the conversation to identify a more manageable number of strategies to meet travel needs. We are describing 5 in this presentation and seek your feedback on these. The 5 hybrid strategies have been developed by our project team, and they include various combinations of elements with a different emphasis in each strategy. Each hybrid strategy has been developed to achieve various levels of shift in travel behavior. You will notice in the top right-hand corner on the strategy slides the expected or desired modal split between the different modes of transportation. Based on the testing of various elements to date and our experience from other jurisdictions, the elements within each hybrid strategy have been combined in order to achieve those modal split goals. After obtaining input from people like yourselves and other stakeholders on the 5 hybrid strategies, the project team will complete an evaluation of the various hybrid strategies to determine how well they achieve the vision and objectives already presented during this presentation that make up this Transportation Master Plan. The recommended hybrid strategy will be used to guide the next steps of the Transportation Master Plan, including recommendations for capital projects, policies, investments, and priorities for implementation. The first hybrid strategy includes a number of elements from different modes of travel. On the top right-hand corner, we have listed the modal split we believe would be achieved using this strategy. You will notice that as we progress through the strategies, the modal split changes, with travel by car decreasing and travel by other modes increasing. Each strategy is presented on 2 slides to adequately describe the different elements that the strategy contains. Hybrid Strategy 1 contains improvements to all modes of travel, but will not be as aggressive as the following strategies. In Hybrid Strategy 1, walking improvements would be focused on the downtown and adjacent neighborhoods, with moderate investment in expanding the sidewalk network and filling in missing segments along transit routes. Cycling will be in line with the continue scenario from the Cycling Master Plan, which will require about 20 kilometers of new cycling infrastructure expanded gradually, with a higher focus on recreational trail connections for cycling and walking and rolling, and to a lesser extent, improving on road cycling infrastructure and filling in missing sidewalks on key arterial road corridors to build a modest network of connected routes. Regarding transit for Hybrid Strategy 1, transit ridership would be increased due to implementation of the new transit network and general growth in population and in general growth in students. Road improvements would include intersection and safety improvements, plus widening of existing roads or building new arterial or collector roads. Measures to optimize the performance of signalized intersections and major corridors would continue with the intent to improve traffic flow and defer or delay the need for widening. Building on Hybrid Strategy 1 is Hybrid Strategy number 2. Walking would be focused on the downtown and adjacent neighborhoods with moderate investment in expanding the sidewalk network and filling in missing segments along transit routes. Cycling would be in line with the accelerate scenario from the cycling master plan, including emphasis on completing new on-road routes to create a basic network of all ages and all abilities facilities that combines on-road and new and existing trails to provide coverage to most areas of the city. The accelerate scenario also includes programming to encourage cycling usage. For hybrid strategy 2 regarding transit ridership would increase due to the implementation of the new transit network designed for the future population growth to best service the areas of that growth, and recognizing the general growth in population and the growth in students. Road network improvements would include intersection and safety improvements, plus widening of existing roads or building new arterial or collector roads. However, projects that include safety improvements and new cycling infrastructure would be prioritized. Measures to optimize the performance of signalized intersections and major corridors would continue with the intent to improve traffic flow and defer or delay the need for widening. Hybrid Strategy 3 combines assertive elements to help create a better balance between modes of travel. Walking improvements will be focused on the downtown, adjacent neighborhoods, and an aggressive program of investment in expanding the sidewalk network in existing built-up neighborhoods and filling in missing segments along transit routes. Cycling investment would be in line with the accelerate scenario from the cycling master plan, including emphasis on completing new on-road routes to create a basic network of all ages and all abilities facilities that combines on-road and new or existing trails to provide coverage in most areas of the city. This strategy also includes policy interventions regarding parking regulations, as parking costs would increase in the downtown and paid parking could expand beyond the downtown. For Hybrid Strategy 3, transit would be expected to increase 43% in service hours and improve frequency of service and measures to improve the speed of transit service on a number of key corridors. Policies to support transit, such as increased parking costs in the downtown, as mentioned on the previous slide, would be implemented. Strategic road network improvements will be made with a limited road network expansion. Improved safety or support for enhanced transit travel times will be prioritized. Intersection improvements and other measures to optimize roadway performance will be implemented on key corridors in the city to defer the need for widening in order to reduce delays and emissions while improving transit priority at signalized intersections. Widening or new roads would only be considered after implementing optimization measures first, or to support improved transit access and transit travel times, or in areas where regular fixed transit route service cannot be provided. Hybrid Strategy 4, labeled the Transform Strategy, uses aggressive investments in walking and cycling, plus big moves in transit for increased frequency and reduced fares. Road network improvements rely on optimization of the network. Policy interventions help achieve travel behavior change, such as an adjusted approach to land use by limiting future planned growth in greenfield areas of the city and redirecting this growth into built-up areas along arterial and collector road networks, where intensification and higher densities would be required. Walking improvements would include an extensive investment in new sidewalk improvements all across the city, particularly in the downtown, new growth areas, and along major intensification corridors and transit routes. Cycling investment would be aligned with the Spark scenario, with a large investment in cycling routes with 160 kilometers of new facilities, including an emphasis on completing new on-road routes to create an extensive, connected, all ages, all abilities network of on-road facilities throughout the city, combined with an expansion of the off-road trail system as well. Hybrid strategy number 4, transform, would also include an aggressive shift for transit with a 71% increase in service hours and significantly improving the speed of transit service and providing enhanced frequency on numerous routes. Policies to support transit, such as increasing parking costs in the downtown and in other key intensification corridors, limiting the supply of new parking, and expanding the number of residents eligible for subsidized transit passes would be implemented. Strategic road improvements would be focused on improving transit performance and cycling, such as adding separated cycling facilities on all major collector and arterial roads. A smart signal or connected autonomous vehicle program would be implemented across the city to reduce delays and emissions while improving transit and connected vehicle priority at signalized intersections. Hybrid strategy 5 is the most aggressive strategy in terms of seeking the greatest shift away from driving to more sustainable modes of travel. This strategy focuses on the most aggressive elements and the greatest aspirations for changing travel behavior. Investments in transportation will be made with a view of achieving the city's greenhouse gas emissions targets, both corporately and in the broader community. This strategy would entail an adjusted approach to land use to limit approved and planned growth in greenfield areas of the city and redirecting this growth into built-up areas along arterial and collector road corridors where intensification beyond provincial targets would be required. Cycling would be aligned with the SPARK scenario from the Cycling Master Plan. Walking improvements would include an extensive investment in new sidewalks with existing built-up areas, and that would be implemented all across the city, particularly in the downtown, new growth areas, and along major intensification and transit corridors. A smart signal connected autonomous vehicle program would be implemented across the city to reduce delays and emissions while improving transit and connected vehicle priority at signalized intersections. For Hybrid Strategy 5, our climate focus, an aggressive transit investment plan is proposed to increase service hours up to 120% of current levels, combined with strong policy measures, such as significantly increased parking costs or congestion charges, and limiting supply of parking in the downtown. A broad-based transit charge on property tax bills to support unlimited access to use the transit service has been included. A complete replacement of the transit fleet to 100% zero-emission buses will be achieved, it is proposed, over a 10-year horizon. Road improvements would only be considered for rehabilitation of existing infrastructure to incorporate safety improvements or to add separated cycling facilities on all major collector and arterial roads, or to support enhanced transit services. Road diets may be implemented on certain corridors to implement dedicated road space for cycling or transit lanes. A road diet would be reducing lanes for vehicles and replacing that space with lanes for cycling or transit. A smart signal or a connected autonomous vehicle program, as described on the previous slide, would be implemented across the city in an effort to reduce delays and emissions while also improving transit and connected vehicle priority at signalized intersections.